Namaste and welcome to all of you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever part of the world you are. Are you all able to hear me clearly? You can just type yes in the comment section. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Keshava. Namaste. Thank you so much. We'll give it 1 minute and we'll get started. Okay. So let's start with the prayer to God. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha Hari Om. आचार्य पवनोस्माकम् आचार्याणि च भारती देवो नारायण श्रीशः देवी मंगल देवता. So we are starting with a prayer to our Guru Srimad Madhwacharya and his consort the Gnana Bhimani Devata Bharati, and we are praying to Sri Hari Lord Narayana, and we are praying to Goddess Lakshmi Mangala Devata. So it is a customary thing to pray to God and Goddess Lakshmi both, because God is the person who is the main goal for us to achieve, and Goddess Lakshmi is Shastra Bhimani Devata. So for us to be able to understand the Shastras, we need the blessings of Goddess Lakshmi really. So the real wealth that she gives us is not the materialistic wealth, but the gnana that she gives along with it. So with that prayer, I will go on to look at little bit about what we are going to do today. Right? So today's agenda is that we are on the part 2 of the session of learning Sri Madhwa Shastra in simple format in English. So when we were thinking about how to present the Madhva Shastra, as I said last time, there are many ways you can do it. One way to do that is to go through all the texts that have been written as Sarvamoola Granthas. That is a more detailed and long drawn process. It would take us anywhere between 8 to 12 years to go through all the Sarvamoola Granthas. The other way is to pick up one of the Granthas or some of the Granthas and see how these Granthas bring out the main elements of the philosophy itself. Okay, so that is what we decided that we will do, and we started with Kathopanishad, and I will come to it in a minute about why we chose this. So we'll talk about the recap of last session. Quick recap is needed, not only for people who have missed, but for the people who are there, about how we will proceed today. Right, today is going to be the crux of Madhva Shastra explained in a simple format, and I'm glad all of you have joined in large numbers for this particular session. So we start with the recap of the last session, then we do continue with the question and answer between Nachiketa and Yama, which is the crux of Kathopanishad. Last time we started the Q&A and we truncated it at a particular time, and we will continue from there. So what are the differences and similarities between the soul and God? I think this is a question which I have got, I think, at least 1,000 times in the last 21 years that we've been doing these different sessions. And is there an easy way to understand it? Yes, there is a beautiful way. The Kathakopanishad, the core of the Kathakopanishad is actually telling us the difference between the soul and God. So our journey to study of Kathakopanishad has been simplified, I would say, thanks to Kathopanishad and thanks to Nachiketa and Yama, who is, we know him as Narakadipati, but he's also Dharmadipati. So he is the one who will put us in the path of Dharma and is a Gnani of the highest order. So, what are the differences between the soul and the God? And what about the attributes of God? When we say God, when we say Narayana, when we say Sri Hari, whatever we may say, Vishnu, what are his attributes? How does he look? Why should we be praying to him? And all these things are questions which keep coming to our mind. Why only Sri Hari? Why Narayana? Why not Brahma? Why not Shiva? Why not Parvati? Etc. When we're talking about the attribute of God, we will also look at the attributes of the other gods. So there is Deva, who is Vishnu, and there are Devatas. That means people who pray to the Deva. So Deva is none other than Sri Hari. But the other people who are there, who are called demigods, they are people who there is a hierarchy between them as well. So we will know about Jivatma and Paramatma, the differences, and Devata Taratamya also we will get to see today. So that's the attributes of God. Then, having known God and having known what we want, how do we go about in that path of pursuit? How do we pursue that? If the path is not clear and it is only about the destination, then this is a theoretical exercise. So when we are setting the destination as God or moksha, we also have to set in the path to it. Yes, the moment you set the GPS destination, you will also reach the path has to be given. That's why we use the GPS, right? So this is why we are pursuing this. So let me go through the recap quickly. So if you see, what we did last time was we defined what is Upanishad. Upanishad is a part of the Vedas, and it is why is it called Upanishad? There are many reasons for this. One we had said last time, that is Upa, that means it takes you, Upa means close, and Nishat means takes you seated closer to your destination, which is your Guru and later on God Himself. So it is the essence of the Vedas which it is speaking of, right? So it is Upanishad. The second thing is Upa has another meaning, which is lifts you up. Upar. There is a Hindi word called Upar. I think all of us know this. So this is Upanishad is Upar. That means it is taking you, lifting you above. So, in other words, reading the entire Vedas, which are obviously infinite in number, and reading the Upanishads, which is the Sarabhuta or the crux or the summary or the essence or the condensed form of the Vedas, right? So, therefore, Upanishads have a very, very special place in the world of spirituality. Irrespective of the school of philosophy that you are studying, Upanishad form the crux or the most important parts of that. So, there are Upanishads. So, since there are infinite Vedas, there are also infinite Upanishads. Now, amongst them, the top 10 Upanishads have been picked up, and those are what you see here as Dashopanishad. Dashopanishad or the principal Upanishad. Dasha has two meanings. Dasha means 10. We know this. The other one is called 10 on 10. That means Purna. That means if you study the Upanishads, you actually have covered all the aspects of our spirituality, right? So we call Madhwacharya Dashapramati. That means he's a Sarvagnacharya. He knows all the aspects of spirituality. So study of the Upanishads itself is enough for us to understand the world of spirituality. And let me share with you an insight I got recently. We have all been studying the scriptures, and we say, look, we have to study more, to study more and more texts. You studied the Bhagavata, then go to read the Bhagavad Gita, then I should study the Mahabharata, Ramayana. Yes, definitely. That's the way to go forward. But what is also important is that whatever little that we know, or whatever we know, how are we able to condense it inside? How are we able to percolate that insight. Right? Slowly and steadily, this should form a part of our knowledge. And what is our destination here? Is that when we have studied something and learnt it, it becomes our knowledge. We are not saying Upanishad says this. Upanishad has said this. That is why it is authentic. But I have processed this in my own way. And I have come to the conclusion that this is indeed right. Right? If you ask a second standard student, what is 12 into 7? He'll say 84. Then we say, who told you this? He says, my teacher told me. You go to a student who's in class 10 and say 12 into 7 is what? He says 84. He says, who told you? He said, nobody needs to tell me. I know it's 84. Yes, it was taught by someone else, but that should become your body of knowledge. So in these sessions, I would suggest with these sessions and whatever else you read, try and make that body of knowledge firm within you. And reading even one part of one Upanishad is enough. Kathopanishad is absolutely enough for us to understand all aspects of spirituality. So before we jump on to another body of knowledge, it could be Bhagavata or Bhagavad Gita. Even understanding one of them in depth and in entirety and make it yours is very, very important. So that is what is the meaning of Upanishad. So that is the position that Kathopanishad offers. And as we know, this will be the recap, and then I will go to the main shlokas and the quick summary of what happened. So it starts with the story of Nachiketa. Nachiketa's father, Uddalaka, is giving away cows as a donation, charity. He wants to attain the Swarga or the heavens, and for that he is doing the dana. So he is giving away the cows. Nachiketa sees and he observes that the cows are really weak, they are of no use. So he said, asked his father, why are you giving away these cows just like that? It is of no use. These cows will become a burden to anybody who receives them. They won't yield the milk. They're not even able to eat. So why are you doing this? At that time, Uddalaka gets very upset. He's as it is upset because he's hungry at that time. It's been a long day for him. Nachiketa is not deterred. He goes on asking, instead of giving away these cows, why don't you give me away to someone? That he says that first time. Then the second time also he says, whom are you going to give me away? Why don't you give me away? Maybe I can help somebody. If you give me as dana instead of these cows, I can go and work in their house. He asks for the second time. And the third time, he asks, much to the anger of Uddalaka, who curses him and says, Mrityur meva dadati. I am giving you to God of death. We use the word, go to hell. So he literally says, go to hell in a fit of anger. Nachiketa takes that very literally and he goes on that path of death. He actually goes to the Yamaloka. He's sitting there hungry for 3 days. Yama's wife offers him food because Yama is not in town. He has gone to another loka. So he says, you should, do this. You should eat. But he refuses. And then he sits like a dharna. He's sitting there. And when Yama comes, he is filled with appreciation for the young boy. Because imagine what a setting it must be. His father has disowned him. He asked him to go and die. He has left his body and his soul has traveled to the where? Yamaloka. And the person whom he's talking to is none other than Lord Yama. And he's hungry for 3 days. Nothing is going right for this young boy. From the way the Upanishads and Mahabharata tell this story, it appears that this boy is around 10 to 12 years old. For such a young boy who has been disowned by his father, not only now, even earlier, being an introvert, he never spoke. So people thought he's a dullard, and he was rejected by everyone. So he just stays in his house doing all the household work. He was not even sent to the Gurukula. He comes to Naraka. He sees Yama, and he asks some of the most profound questions. Right? So it is a classic case of learning under very, very big challenges, under very trying situations. What can be more trying than this? But Nachiketa is not a person who is going to be deterred. So we have some very clear takeaways from the session. One is the importance of dana. Uddalaka is angry. He shouted at his son. He berated him. He shouldn't have done that. There is no doubt about it. But having said that, he still had good intentions. That is why he was giving the dana. So the importance of dana is there. Second one is the firmness and determination is very critical to us achieving knowledge. At the drop of a hat, we give up our studies. Learning, is always a burdensome thing. That's what we think. But spiritual knowledge, Shastra, Adhyayana, even more. Right? So we have to overcome this paradigm of thinking that Shastras are tough. Yes, there are challenges. Any new body of knowledge will have challenges. But if we don't have that firmness and determination, then we will not learn anything. So forget the Shastras. We have all studied something in our life. Maybe we have done a graduation, maybe we have studied, even if you have studied till class 12, was that easy for us? No. We always had difficulties, difficult teachers, difficult classes, difficult textbooks, difficult school, difficult travel, not being able, but we persisted. Because we persisted to that extent, we were able to learn. But this is Adhyatma Vidya. This is a Vidya which will take us all away to a different world. This is chosen to be given only to people who are trying hard. Where is it said that we have to try hard in Kathopanishad? Kathopanishad itself is saying this. The word Katha is named after there are two meanings as I had shared last time. One of that is that there is a rishi called Katha. He worked very hard to understand these learnings. So therefore it is called Kathopanishad. Then that is why we have to put in that effort. Nachiketa, on the contrary, is completely filled with that astikya bhava. That means he is overcome by that understanding of what is right or what is wrong. He does not let his father make a mistake. At the same time, he doesn't lose the reverence for his father. He doesn't lose his school. Uddalaka might have, lost his school, but there are people who have kept their, he has kept his courage. He's held on to his patience and see what he got at the end. Right? This whole thing is that the vidhi or the method to attain this great knowledge is called Nachiketagni. Imagine the whole study of this Kathakopanishad is named after Nachiketa. That is what he got. Today we don't remember XYZ, but we remember Nachiketa. And we, of course, remember Sri Yama for having given him that knowledge. Right? So if you ask anybody what is Kathakopanishad, even people who know the rudimentaries will say it's between a conversation between Nachiketa and Yama. Like what is Bhagavad Gita? It's a conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. Right? So Nachiketa is filled with that astikya bhava. He wants to do what is right, not what is nice. Doing nice things is always easy. Doing the right thing is difficult. But what gives us breakthroughs, what gives us success is not doing the nice things. It's about doing the right things, however difficult they may be. There is a difference between reaction and response. Uddalaka reacted. Nachiketa responded. He's very, very composed. He's thinking. He's not reacting to anything. His father provoked him. He's hungry for 3 days. Further, Yama is also provoking him by saying, "Look, you know, don't ask for this. 3 boons I'm giving you, right? Because you stayed here for 3 days, I'm giving you 3 boons." The first two questions that Nachiketa asks, immediately Yama gives him whatever he wants. But the third one, the question that we have put in red is, what is, does God control us even after we attain salvation? That means after mukti, does God have niyamakatva on us? Does he control us? Or after we get salvation, we have achieved what we want in life. So we don't want to be, we are not under anybody's control. Like we graduate from a college. What do we say? My God, I've graduated from that college. Now I'm not under the, under that college, I'm not at the mercy of the education system and so on. But this is not the case. So his question is that, Nachiketa is such a smart person that by asking this question, he has paved the way for him and all of us who are all listening to this now, right? To get many intermediate answers, right? So by asking one, he has asked many, many questions, which Yama is then with great happiness and joy is answering all those questions. So he is the one who gets the best out of that situation, where you are in front of a guru like Yama. There can be no other fruit other than getting this divine knowledge. Anything else is saste ka soda. I'm sure all of you have heard this. It is not a good bargain, because at that time, Yama, in some sense, is obligated to you. Nachiketa does all this so beautifully. So again, you should not mistake that Nachiketa tricked Yama. Yama did not go anywhere. First of all, it is his loka. Where will he go? It is his place. He was just seeing what was happening, testing his patience, testing him whether he is really committed to this particular activity, to this learning, or he is just a superficial person who just got angry with his father and he has come here. The story, of course, reminds us of Dhruva, where his mother chided him, his father did not support him, and angrily he goes away into the forest. But there is a difference. There is a big thing that came in his way. Two things. First, his mother told him to seek God. Aradhahi adhokshada pada padmam, she says. Instead of asking, my father scolded me, give me an opportunity to be seated. Instead of saying that, what did she say? She said, Aradhahi adho. Aim for the ultimate goal. Aim for what you really want. Don't aim for to be seated on your father's lap. That should not be the goal of a soul. This is a materialistic thing. It will come and it will go. But what you gain as a grace of God will always remain with you. So he does that, and what happens next? Whom does he find next? It is none other than sage Narada who comes, and he becomes his guru. So for the lesson for all of us is, if God, Shriman Mahashihari, can give you a guru anytime, anywhere, even in the hell, he will find a guru for you if you are committed, and the guru will give you what you want. But if you are not committed, if this is not what we are seeking, you will not find it even in the best places. There is no difference in the upbringing of Pandavas and Kauravas. There is no difference in upbringing between Duryodhana and Arjuna. But Arjuna chose Krishna as his guru. This guy, Duryodhana, thought he is above everything and he had nothing to learn from anybody. And rest, as they say, is history. So Nachiketa's big question is about that. So he is reacting, he's responding and not reacting. It's a very important lesson for us. Then, of course, there are other lessons. I think we will look at it as become. But the very important thing, which is in many ways the big lesson from Kathopanishad, is that there are two types of progresses that we see. One is called Shreyas, and the other one is called Preyas. Shreyas is long-term success. It is something that happens over a period of time. It is not temporary, it is permanent. Whereas Preyas is short-term success. So, if you see the Gita, even there, Arjuna says, "Tell me what will give me Shreyas." Because I don't know. In today's mind, my mind is too turbulent for me to even ask what I want. So therefore, he says, I want to understand what is good for me in the long term. So this clear distinction has to be made by us. It is the same thing as asking being nice and being right. The other thing that we learned was, look, if you're looking around all around and say nobody else is doing it, that's what we do. Nobody else is doing it. See, early in the morning you have to get up and pray. See, nobody's doing it. Everybody's doing something else. This is bad reasoning. Simply because everybody is doing it, doing something wrong doesn't make it right. No matter how many people go against you, if you know that is the right way to do it, and the scriptures have said it, God has said it, Srimad Madhwacharya has said it, Sri Jaitirtha has said it, our Raghavendra Swamiji has said it, why should you be worried about somebody else saying whatever? These are our gurus. XY0, maybe a friend, maybe someone you know, but that doesn't make him a guru. Right? So it's very important to do, what you think is right. So this is what we learned in the first session that we have. And at the same time, we also saw the drawback of someone who is immature, where we say for them spirituality does not exist because I can't see it, I don't believe it. That is a very constricted approach in this. Okay, so now we will go into the next style of what we are doing. So you will see this, this visual that I have made. For every lesson in the Shastras, there are 3 takeaways we can have. It depends on how we see it. The main purpose of Shastras is Vedantic, or is to uplift us spiritually. That's the main goal. It also has some personal takeaways. That means takeaways that will make us a better person. And in many cases, there are things where we can use them professionally also. Do you all agree that we should look at Shastras in these 3 ways? You can give in the comment section. Because in my opinion, and this is what even the Shastras elucidate, a Shastra has got many meanings and there can be takeaways for everything. It is very important that we look at the spiritual or the Vedantic meaning, but it should not be something like which we say, look, I learned this great thing on Saturday night, but does it help me on Monday? Sujal is saying yes, right? Others, if you have an opinion, you can type it. So I would like all of you to start whatever you read in spirituality, try and see whether there is a personal message and there is a professional message that you can take away from that, right? Because what I have understood, I have been in the world of management for now 31 years, and I can say one thing with a lot of conviction, and that is that whenever you look at the world of management, the world of economics, the world of science, slowly and steadily it is coming towards our Shastras. The Shastras are way ahead of the rest of the world in many things. In the subsequent sessions that we will do on other topics, I will bring out these things very explicitly. So therefore, keep this imagery in your mind. This visual should be there in your mind. That is why I have put it in every slide, right? So we go to the next mantra from where we left off last time. This is a beautiful mantra. It says, Naisha Tarkena Matirapayena. So, what it says is that the God and the soul. So, here we will use the word Paramatma and Jivatma to be clear, because the word Atma is used in both the contexts. The Paramatma and Jivatma are different, they are entirely different. God has, infinite qualities, and he does not have any defects. Now, when you want to understand this great entity called God or Paramatma, logic, inference, that is Anumana, are not good enough. Logic fails in some circumstances. Logic does not explain everything. And Sri Madhwacharya Tirtha beautifully explains it in his Grantha Yukti Malika. He says, look, logic has got certain limitations. It can't be applied everywhere. God is above logic. He gives an example. All of us have seen a lemon, and we say, oh, lemon is this big. The lemon tree is, of a certain size. Then we take a mango. Mango is bigger than a lemon. So the tree must be bigger. So a mango tree, full grown tree, will be bigger than a full grown lemon tree. Granted. Now let's come to a cucumber. Cucumber is much bigger than both these. So how big should the tree be? Bigger than the mango tree? Correct? By that logic, tarka. But what is the cucumber? Where does it grow? It's not a tree at all. It's a creeper. So therefore, tarka does not apply everywhere. Tarka is very good, logic is very good, but it has got certain limitation when it comes to spiritual matters. That's the first thing that we should know, that anything that we have been studying, all of us have been studying as science, is great, but it is physics. It's not metaphysics. There is a world beyond the physics, beyond science, and science is slowly and gradually, catching up with that. So this logic and inference are great pramanas, but they have a limitation. Let us understand this very clearly. Veda, therefore, is the only source by which we can understand God. The Vedas, or Agama, as it's called. That's why one of the granthas written by Sri Madhwacharya, Sri Vishnu Tattva Vinanaya, starts with that Sadagamaika Vignayam Samatita Ksharakshana Narayanam Sada Vande Nirdosha Shesha Sadgunam. That's the first line, the first shloka. So here, what is the Sadagamaika? Only through the agamas will we be able to understand God. So therefore, why are we studying Upanishad? One and only main reason, we have of course had two useful byproduct, is mainly to understand the spiritual world. Right? What does Vedas have to say? So the Veda are the only source. Next, Yama says, and he commends Nachiketa in this mantra. He says, Nachiketa, you are so patient. You are so courageous. You did not give up. I tried to distract you from so many things. Right? I told you I will give you this, I will give you that. I offered you so many things. You did not budge. You said, no, I want the answer to this question. Yama even goes one step ahead. Again, very good takeaway for all of us who want to pursue spiritual knowledge. It's a great lesson for us. What does our man say? Nachiketa say? He says, Yama says that, look, the question that you're asking me is something even the gods don't know. How can you know the answer to this? They themselves have not understood. It's a very difficult question to answer. He's just trying to distract Nachiketa, but Nachiketa is not getting distracted. He says, Yama, I know this is difficult. This is a very difficult question to answer. But I have you as my guru. I have you as my guru. So what do I need? I don't need anything. Correct? You can give me what you want, right? I know you can give me. So Yama is astonished with the answer. How he turned the table, literally. Of course, Yama is at a much higher level as a Gnani compared to Nachiketa, but again, he's amazed and he's very appreciative. And once you get the Guru's blessings, the knowledge from the Guru to the Shishya just flows like the water, which flows from a higher level to a lower level, like in a pipe. There is nothing which constricts it because the Guru is in the full mood. He is in that mindset that I'm going to teach him everything I know. So he stayed away from distractions. Right? Next one, Yama says that look, God is the controller and he is foundational to God's existence. Samaha, he bestows the best fruits to the best karmas. So one of the names of Srimad Narayana, which all of us would have heard it in Vishnu Sahasranama, is that Samhita Samaha. So what does Sama mean? Beautiful, again, beautifully elucidated by Sri Raghavendra Swamiji in his text Gita Vivritti. He says Sama means someone who is very fair and just. So if you have done something right, he will give you the right fruits. If you have done something wrong, you will get punished for it. Sama does not mean equal. A person who is not considering karmas, not considering eligibility to get something is and giving the same fruit is not the right judge. Imagine a teacher who gives everybody the same marks. Right? It's not fair on the people who have studied hard. He may say that, look, the people who have not studied properly, I will teach them. That's another way. But it is wrong to give the same fruit, and God is above that. So he is Samaha. He bestows the best fruit to the best karmas. Right? All the other gods are praying to Lord Hari. So therefore, whenever we do any puja to any god, we have to do that, saying that yes, we are doing puja to this god, but Sri Hari is there within that god and he is blessing us. Right? So therefore, all the other, that's why we call them devatas, because they pray to God. So it's a accepted practice that we do this, but we should know why we are doing it. This is the reason, because whether we offer or not, them to that or not to God, the devatas will go and offer it anyways. So we should offer the puja to Sri Hari through these gods. So all the other devatas are also praying to him. And Srimad Madhwacharya gives a beautiful analogy in his bhashya. I brought out, as I said, the whole meaning that I'm explaining to you forms a part of Sri Madhwa Bhashya and the Kathopanishad Khandartha written by Sri Raghavendra Swamiji. So in that he says the mind is like the arrow which has to hit a target. And who is the target for that? It is God. It's Parabrahma. And the arrow should hit the target. It has to be, it should hit the target. But after the arrows hit the target, will the arrow become the target? Answer is no. Therefore, if I am a jiva and there is Paramatma and I have to hit or I have to attain God, whenever we see the word attain God, reach God, it means we have gone closer to God. We have not become God. This is the crux of Srimad Madhva's philosophy. And that is what is explained in Kathopanishad. If you read the Kathopanishad, even if in simple ways, nowhere is it said that you will attain God. You look at, let us come back to what is the question that Nachiketa has asked. Nachiketa did not ask that after I attain salvation or somebody attains salvation, will I become God? He's saying will God still be controlling the person who has got salvation? So, what does it mean? God and that person, even in a state of salvation, will be different people. He will be controlling him, which is the answer, Yama gives to Nachiketa subsequently. So, therefore, God and the soul will remain different. And pure water, when it enters a large pond, will still remain pure. The molecules will remain pure even otherwise. Right? So, this is the crux of this mantra. So, here he has talked about the quality of God and how his behavior is towards someone who is praying to him. Now, let me ask you a question before I get into the next one. What is the opposite of distraction? We use the word distraction, right? What is the opposite of, no, his mind is always everywhere. What is the opposite of this? What is that one word which comes to your mind when you say what is the opposite of distraction? What is that one word? You can type in the comment section. What is that one word which comes to your mind? Focus. Correct. Any other? How many? Let's wait for a few answers. Attention, concentration, composed. What else? Any other answers? Opposite of distraction. So all of you are right. I deliberately misguided you because I knew all of you will say focus, attention, right? All similar words, concentration. I deliberately moved my hands like this. I wanted to distract you. So opposite of distraction is traction, isn't it? This is opposite of something. Dissatisfaction. What's the opposite of dissatisfaction? Satisfaction. So what is the opposite of distraction? Traction. Right? So all of you are right. All of you are right. When you said focus, concentration, composed, attention, all of you are right in your own way. But the exact word which is opposite to distraction is traction. Now, why am I saying this? Because now I have to define one word for you, which is vairagya. Right? This word is, I think, a little misunderstood. Vairagya means focus on God. Be completely focused on God. And everything else you will automatically lose interest. That is what is meaning of vairagya. Vairagya does not mean that you leave everything else. You leave everything in this world, sit in one corner and be very, disillusioned. That is not the meaning of called, that's not the meaning of vairagya. So therefore, to achieve any goal in our life, we of course have to keep away from distraction. But for that, we should know what is traction. Say, let us say, after the session is over at 10:30 in the night, India time, if I ask you, what are you going to do? Some people may come and say, look, I have to go and, go and sleep. Some people may say, I have to read this book. Or some people say, I've got some other work to do. Some people say, no, I want to have a late dinner. It could be anything that you want, right? Now, if I tell you, so all of you have something planned. Suppose you had nothing to plan and you say, I think I'll sleep around 11:30. So from 10:30 to 11:30, you've not planned anything. So your mind, what will it do? It will do some random things. That is called distraction. Because there's no traction, there's nothing that was planned, then it is called, then therefore it is called distraction. Opposite of that is traction. So therefore our shastras say that we need vairagya when one thing should happen. What? You love the world, you're very attracted to the world, the worldly, the materialistic things, your family, everything, your profession, money, what have you, fame, anything. That is your thing that you are focused on. Let's call it worldly things. And then there's the spiritual things. Both of them are important for us to live happily. But the day, your spiritual your spiritual quotient starts increasing, you get more attracted towards spiritual things in life, then that means your vairagya is increasing, because the gap between this and this is slowly increasing, right? This is how it should look. So why does this happen? Not because you have just lost interest in everything in love. That is called disillusion, by the way. That's not called detachment. That's disillusion. Oh my God, nothing is working. Whatever I try, I'm just fed up of everything. That is not vairagya. Vairagya is, I'm so interested in the world of spirituality, that this materialistic world, I've understood its limitations. That is vairagya. Vairagya again does not mean that you go away into some forest. That is not vairagya. That if you're doing it because you are saying that, look, I have found something in my life which is more interesting. So thank you, world. Thank you for whatever you have given, but I found something more interesting. Right? So let us say there's a tennis fan. For him, if the world Wimbledon finals are getting played, that watching that is ultimate. Everything else becomes disinteresting to him. Somebody calls him for dinner, something his friends come, he's not interested because he's found something more interesting than that. So I deliberately took some time to explain this concept of vairagya, because we have to understand this very accurately. Why? Because that vairagya is very important in our spiritual world. We have to slowly and steadily develop the taste for the spiritual world, and that comes only after we are repeatedly doing this. It doesn't come one fine day, right? I think all of us would have had that experience. So we move to the next one, where Yama says, how is God? Now he starts explaining God, because now he is answering Nachiketa's questions. What did he ask? Does God control us even during after salvation? The answer, Yama says, is yes. Now I'm going to tell you how and what is the form of God that you had just asked me about. How is that God? He's a treasure trove of happiness, Anandamaya, right? And only He and His consort, Lakshmi Devi, can bestow salvation on you. Nobody else has the power to grant salvation. Other gods will help you be on the path of salvation. So Ganesha will remove all the obstacles for you to attain that. Goddess Parvati will give us wealth to be able to do that. Wealth of all types. Every god, all the Navagrahas, everybody will put in their work in order to be able to grant that salvation to you. But only Lord Narayana can grant that salvation. And that form of Lord Narayana who is going to give you the salvation, is nothing but Vasudeva. Goddess Lakshmi also can give it, but she gives it thanks to the grace of Lord Narayana. There are other aspects also which we'll come to it in some other session. God is a controller and foundational to our existence. Our relationship with the God is not that of what it is. Like, we think somebody is very great. For example, there's a king who is very great, right? There is a role model you have, there is a hero you have. They are not gods. So God's position is that of being a controller of everything that we do. He is a niyamaka for everything that we do. He is foundational to our existence. He bestows the best fruits for the best karma, as we have seen. And all the Vedas are educating us about Him. The main purpose of the Vedas is to educate us about God. Right? All the Devatas are are there to pray. And where does He stay? This is the best news for us, which is that God is right there in our hearts. We don't have to go about looking for Him anywhere else. He is right there and he is seeing what is happening from within, and he is present in infinite forms all over the place. This is the form of God that Yama is telling Nachiketa to that question. Next, how do we attain him? That is through the guidance of great people, gurus. They are the people who will take us towards him. Then the God size is very minute, we can barely see him, and he is different from the soul. We have to understand God as someone who is different from the soul. We all have this, we may get into this kind of an illusion that God and us are same. It looks like he's a slightly better version of us, maybe a little more, but essentially we are all the same. No, there are fundamental differences, and I'll come to that in a minute. About the differences, I made a separate slide so that I'm summarizing all this. Then he gets eternal bliss and happiness from God. Now, how is God? He's summarily different. Vilakshana. We use the word vilakshana. That means he's summarily different from everything else. And he's different from any soul we know. Unfortunately for us, we can't compare him to any other soul because he is summarily different from all of us. He exists with in the past, he exists in the present, and he will exist in the future without any distortion. All of us undergo changes as time passes. Our soul also gains and loses its its strength, its knowledge, its karma, etc. that is stored in that jiva. Right? But God is that is why he's called Shashvata. That means he's there at all times. And he gives the final answer to the question, which Nachiketa asked. He says he controls the soul even in the state of mukti. So even after getting salvation, the soul is very, very much in the control of God. Right? So if you have questions on this, please put it in the comment section and we will answer it either at the end or as we go along. Right? So this is the form of God. This is the form of the soul. Then all the Vedas describe him. Every word in the Vedas is describing him. So we may say, you know what about Rudra Sukta? What about Shri Sukta? They are all written on Rudra. They are all written on Goddess Lakshmi. Some suktas are called Varuna Sukta. That means it is written Varuna. Agni Sukta. So the Vedas, all of them, first and foremost connote Lord Vishnu. Then they connote other people. The mantras are very clear. They all connote Veda, the Lord Sri Hari first, and then they connote the others. A very, very big part of the Dvaitha Vedantha, which is that all the Vedas first are addressing Sriman Narayana himself. Second, all the karmas which are prescribed in the Vedas are to be performed to please him again. That is the central purpose. How do we attain him? By Shamana. So whenever we use the word Shamana, we have to look at all the forms of sadhana. So there are 9 different types of bhakti, which we will talk in a session later. But Shamana, Manana, Nididhyasana, I define that in a short while, has to be done. And controlling the senses, we please him. So if you read any Shastras, be Bhagavata or Gita or anything, this topic about Shamana being the very, very important part of our sadhana comes into the place. Because we cannot transform, we cannot learn if you're not listening. So Shamana means much more than listening. Shamana means studies, listening, hearing. So first is hearing, then is listening, which is a more evolved form, then internalizing it, and then making it a part of your innate thoughts and values is called Shravana. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Internalization. is very, very critical. So therefore, someone who understands God through this and by controlling the senses to please Him. See, why do we say controlling the senses? If you see the Gita, this talk about controlling the senses will keep coming to us. Why do we have to control our senses? This is common sense. Our mind should be so sharp that it should be focused on one thing at a time. Right? We're going to shortly have the Olympics. You ask an Olympic, trainer how important it is to do other things. They say, no, focus on this. So we are trying to attain God. So therefore, controlling our senses become very important. Because if you don't control your sense, we don't control our senses, it is like filling a leaky bucket. On one hand, you're gaining knowledge, and because of your conduct, you're letting go of that knowledge through an orifice. So this is what it is. Next, who will attain salvation? It is someone who understands that Om, whenever the word Om is used, it is not just a pleasant word, it is none other than Lord Vishnu himself. Right? Om, as we know, is Auma, and that expands into the entire Vedas. So, sum and substance of all the Vedas is nothing but Lord Vishnu himself. So, wherever you see the word Om, it is actually connoting Lord Vishnu himself. Omkara Vachyatva, it is called. Next, he's indestructible. He's a ruler, but not like a king, because a king has a lot of limitations. He does not know what is going on in anybody's mind. He's only looking at your external appearance, the king. But God is ruling us from outside as well as inside. So you can lie to anybody, you can pretend to anybody, you can hide things from anybody, but you cannot hide it from God, because He is Antaryami, He knows from within. And now the challenge is He is Aprameya. That means it is very difficult for us to understand, because He is not like anything else we have seen. Let me give you an example. Let us say there is a young child. The child, lived next to a pond. So every day his mother showed him the pond and said, see, so much of water is there. So one day, the child was taken to a beach and shown the ocean. What will the child say? Oh my God, such a big pond. Because pond is the biggest thing that the child has ever seen. Now, what happens is the ocean is of extremely high expanse. There's no way this child who understood only a pond can understand what an ocean is. So telling that the ocean is a big pond is not an accurate description of the ocean. Remember, ocean also has a limitation. It's finite. It may be very large. It is very large, but it's not infinite. God, on the other hand, and all His attributes are of infinite nature. His name itself is Ananta. So what's the difference between us and God? We also have wealth. We have wealth. We are Lakshmivan. He is also Lakshmivan. But the difference is He presides over the goddess of wealth. When you say Gnana, He is Ananta Gnana. Our Gnana is Santa. That means it's got its limitation. Now, somebody may be more educated than the other person. But our knowledge is limited. All the way up to Chaturmukha Brahma, their knowledge is limited. So therefore, God is infinite in His attribute. So therefore, He is Aprameya. That means we cannot give an example. We cannot give a simile. Whatever we give as an example, it is called Upama. That means comparison. That Upama is Nichopama. We are trying to explain a much, much bigger entity which is of infinite size with something that we have. But again, we have to somehow make sense of this great entity. So we are trying our best. So whatever we are doing is only a trial. How bright is God? He's brighter than 1 crore suns. God's brightness is more than that, because He is infinite. It's not limited to 1 crore suns. It could be more. It is more. So how we cannot imagine that, because we can't imagine the brightness of one sun. Forget about crore sun and something more. So Shastras will try and give us that estimate of what that is, so that we get some way, we get some understanding of Lord Vishnu. Okay, so Sarve Vedaha, it is are talking about God. That is why we have to study the Vedas. What is the difference between soul and God? Right. So we'll jump into that section. I have time, I have put this thing. I will just go full screen for you so that you are not distracted. Can you all see this? Can you all read this? If you can't, I would suggest that you also read it later with a bigger screen. I think many of you might be reading it with a mobile phone. That's what I'm told by many of our participants. So, what does it mean? First, we are looking at soul and we are looking at God. So, people will ask, shouldn't we have said differences between God and soul? No, we will do soul and God, because soul is something that we at least we have some understanding of. So we try to understand this Paramatma, as I said, through a limited lens of soul and God. So if you just look at it, this table, there is one more page after this. It has got two colors of rose. One is grey and the other one is blue. Now, why have I separated the two? That there are certain commonalities or apparent commonalities between Jiva and soul, and Jiva and Paramatma. First, Nityatva. That means present. They were there before. They are there now. They will be there tomorrow also. So this Nityatva is common. Both Paramatma and Jivatma are Nitya. Right? Now, there is one star I have written. Terms and conditions apply even here. Right? Like all discount offers. So what is that? Yes. Why have we put a star there is, while the soul and God are, are Nitya, God, as I have said, is Shashvata. That means there is no distortion. There is no change. He remains like that all the time. Next, Chetanatva. That means sentient, living. Both God and soul are living souls. Both of them have Gnana Swarupa. That means within them they have an inherent amount of knowledge. Both of them have it. Their basic nature is that of Gnana Swarupa. And again, there is a star. Why? Because our Gnana Swarupa, the Swarupa of Gnana, the Gnana in our Swarupa is of limited quantity and quality. Whereas God, it is Ananta Gnana with Ananta Parimana. That means of infinite quality and infinite quantity. But both of them have Gnana Swarupa. Next, Swayam Prakasha. That means self-illuminating. Both soul and God are Swayam Prakasha. The cycle of birth and death. The soul, Jivatma, is yes, Paramatma is no. This is where the differences will be very, very evident. But I have still put it in the thing of grey because I wanted to explain a difference. Which is that you may say sometimes we hear about, for example, Krishna Avatara, Rama Avatara that ended. Krishna actually died. So Krishna was neither born nor did he die. Because we'll see Garbhavasa, etc. are not qualities that are present in him. So Paramatma will never die. Death is related to the body. For somebody to die, he should first have a prakrita body. He needs to have a body which is mortal, which is made up of these 5 elements. God doesn't have it. So there is no question of death for God at all. It's not possible. God cannot die. So that's the thing. From then on, the differences start. And this is what forms the crux of Kathopanishad, the rest of the mantras, which I've just combined on all of that so that we get the learnings very clearly. Look at the gunas, the auspicious qualities. Soul also has, but God has an infinite number in infinite measure. What are the defects? Soul has got lots of defects. Dosha. whereas God has none. The body form, and this is the cause for the difference to be very fundamental, is the body form. The jiva takes a particular body form which is mortal, and that body form is panchabhautika, that is made of the five elements. So because it comes with these five elements, it is temporary. It ages, it dies finally. Whereas for God, he has a body. He is not nirakara. He has got a form. And that form, however, is not like our body. It is jnana and anandamaya. Right? So therefore, his jnana and anandamaya, that forms his body. So it's a very ethereal body that he has. So he can neither be born nor does he die. Happiness and sorrow. Yes, the soul is subjected to happiness and sorrow. Whereas for God, he is Anandamaya. There is no question of him getting any sorrows. Okay? Maybe you have explained previously, could be Swarupa. Yes. So Swarupa is nothing but the inherent nature of the soul. For it is in a, when we say something is in a Swarupa, that means that is something that's integral to that particular soul. Right? So what makes the soul different from God is God's Swarupa and the soul's Swarupa. The all these are attributes of God, are attributes of the Swarupa itself. So these attributes that we are studying now are in the Swarupa of God, and all these we are studying as qualities of soul are integral in the soul itself. So Swarupa is nothing but the attributes that are there, which are part of the soul and the nature of Paramatma itself. It is inherent. So why is the day one atom is born or it's created or atom is there, it is different from another atom? Why? It is in its Swarupa. That I am me. I am not like anybody else. What is the difference is something that we can, may be varying, but there is a difference. Similarly, the soul, it is in our Swarupa. All these things that we are in, for example, defects, our, the having limited qualities, etc., is in our Swarupa itself. It's a manufacturing defect. That is why we use the word, it's in the DNA. We say it's DNA. Why? Because it is very, very inherent to us. It cannot be changed. We cannot change the DNA. Even in the ashes, even in the bones, after death, the DNA will not change. Right? So Swarupa is that, if I have answered your question, Vikram. Dependence. Soul is completely dependent. God is independent. Totally independent. He is not dependent on anything on anybody for anything. The form, that is Rupa, qualities, the Guna, and the Nama are all different. But for God, they are all same. His form and his qualities and his name are all integral to his Swarupa. Similarly, the fruits of our action. We are doing, we are performing so many actions and we are getting some phala out of it. So what does the soul get? As per karma. If he's done the right thing, he will get happiness. If he's done the wrong thing, he will get sadness. Whereas for God, there is no negative impact. Irrespective of what are the actions that are being performed when he is in the body of the soul, those things don't touch him at all. So it makes no difference. He's indifferent to that. All these three things, sushupti, that means deep sleep, dukkha, sorrow, and death, are all part of the soul. Whereas God, none of these things are there. Finally, it is garbha, pravesha, or vasa, that means being born in the mother's womb, is not something that happens to God, it happens to the soul. So the garbhavasa is nothing but a sign of that person coming back in the cycle of death and birth and death. It is a sign of dependence. It is a sign of sorrows that he has accumulated over several births. So that is not there for God. Okay. What is this? We have drawn a beautiful table and we have left two rows blank. Is this a mistake? It's not a mistake, because we will be developing this table as we go along and study the other Upanishads as well. So deliberately they have been left blank. We will try and fill it up. So one homework for all of you is that you can look at this table, and if you have more things that you know, or you have read somewhere, you can add it in this table and send it to us. We can also learn from that, and if all these things come together, then we will present it as your contribution in the next session. So it is not by a mistake that we have left those two rows. It is because of other things as well. We want to add other things. It's a long list. So therefore, very, very important, and I would seriously recommend that for those of you who have heard this, please listen to this session again and again, because this forms the crux of Madhwa Shastra. Our whole aim is to teach the Madhva Shastra through the story of Nachiketa, and of course give us the other very, very important lessons as well. So God is smaller than the smallest and bigger than the biggest. You would have heard the famous Devarnama by Purandaradasa, Jagadodharana Adisidale Shoda. Beautiful Kriti. If you have not heard it, please listen to it. Srimati M.S. Subbalakshmi sang that song very well, and bringing out the depth of the Shastras very well in that song. So one of the lines says, Anoraniyana Mahato Mahiyana. So the word Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan is taken from this Upanishad. So now you see how Haridasa Sahitya picks up the lessons not from something else, from the Upanishad itself. So God is smaller than the smallest, bigger than the biggest. In Shastra, two Viruddha Dharma cannot be present at the same place. Common sense, right? Two things which are opposing cannot be in the same space. Can it be? Light and darkness, can they be together? No. An object being there and not being there, can they be together? Either it is there or it's not there. But here, opposing qualities, Viruddha Dharma, can be present in God. He is a man who can manage this. He is an entity who can manage contradictions. We can't understand that contradiction, but he can manage. So he can be smaller than the smallest and bigger than the biggest. This is another attribute of the God, which Jiva does not have. So you can add this to that table already. Then God is in our hearts. We have seen this. Knowledge. So how should our knowledge be? Some people say, how much should I study? I should study till the point that I'm left with no doubts. Because Yathartha Gnana, or has to be, first of all, it should be accurate, and it has to be firm. That look, no matter what happens, I am not going to get distracted. Please remember this. What I have learned from the Shastras, and it's a realization which has come as I study Shastras more and more, is that it's not only for me, it is for everyone. Is that the more you study the Shastras with an inquiry mind, with a mind to find out and analyze everything that you study, the more firm your knowledge becomes. Right? So you have to question. That is the weight of Shastras. But once you have questioned and once you've got the answer, it becomes your body of knowledge. It is not what Upanishads say. It is Upanishads that said it. Great. Thank you to the Upanishad. But now I am convinced it. So I am saying it because it's mine. Right? So this is very, very important. You will have a sense of spiritual progress only when you are having this firm knowledge. Otherwise, even after 15 years of Shastras, studying Shastra, you could be still floating without having any conviction. I don't know, I'm studying this, I don't know whether this is right. So if you don't know whether that is right or wrong, you should ask people who are experts at this. Don't hang in there and float in that world. That's not good for you. Because all of us want to make progress, right? In spirituality also, you have to be very ambitious. Look at this Nachiketa, that's a big lesson he's giving us. That if you want to achieve something, I want to know the answer, because if I don't find out the answer to this question, then how will I elevate myself? Upanishad upar. How will we lift if you're not absorbing that kind of knowledge? So you have to be very, very hungry. We have to be very, very hungry. And Nachiketa fasted for 3 days. It is also a way for him to be spiritually preparing himself to absorb those lessons. Okay, so therefore, this is how Shastras test us every time, true or false, right? So there are lessons, there are sentences which test you whether you are at the right, you're going in the right path or not. It's like a Q&A, right? So this is how it is. So Shastras test us, and God sustains the world. Only the true Gnani gets the vision of God. So if this is something that only God gives it to people who have the true knowledge, he gets Bhagavad Sakshatkara. And the beauty of God, God is permanent, yet he stays in our temporary body. So we may think, see, God was there within us, but if we die and our body, is burnt, what will happen to God? God was inside. Does God also get burnt? Is he harmed? No. God is permanent. Nothing can happen to him. Nothing does happen to him. Yes, our body may go and our soul then leaves the body. But God, nothing happens to him. He is there even in that body, even after death. So if you have seen the proceedings of a cremation, you will see how the form of Vayu is brought back, and we are requesting Lord Vayu that I know you have left the body, but can you please come back for some time, because then we will be able to see the presence of Sri Hari, and then we proceed with the rest of the with the cremation process. So even at the time of death, God is permanent. Nothing, death is only for us. So the soul, nothing has happened to it. It remains the same. Next, how is, so we may think, see, okay, now you please tell me how to get moksha. So listening to lectures, pravachana, yes, done. I've got a lot of knowledge. I've got intellect. I've analyzed everything. Is that sufficient? No. These are sadhanas. These are what we have to do. But only when God gets that opinion about us that this soul is eligible for moksha, he grants us moksha. Right? So some of you might say, oh my God, you told us so many things. We've also learned so many things. But after doing all this also, moksha is not guaranteed. The answer is no. Moksha is not guaranteed because you did this. Because it's not a sense of entitlement. It's not a checkbox that I've done all this. Yes, after doing all of this, the final signature is to be done by God. So some people say, no, not. I don't think this is fair. I've done everything, and why are you saying this? You have to remember two things about God. We talked about different qualities that he has. He has got one more quality. What is that? Karunamaya. He has got enormous amount of love towards his disciples, his devotees. For us to be able to attain salvation, we will never make the cut. Nobody can make the cut because the standards are very high. If you're depending only on our sadhana, it will not happen. We will never reach that eligibility. Yes, I have heard so much pravachana. I have studied all the text. I have got my intellectual knowledge. Yes, that's all a way to do it. But ultimately, God has to add, his bit to it for us to make it eligible. He has to contribute, like EPF, no? We contribute something, the company contributes. Both are 50-50. But in this case, it's not 50. It's 1 and 99. One, after doing all of this, we can barely do 1%. 99%, he says, see, this guy did it. He's eligible. So let me give him moksha. So Bhagavat Prasada is very, very important. So for that, we have to, because we have got limited time. Stay away from negative people and be focused on God. The amount of time that we spend on negativity is huge. There is no way all the negativity around us will suddenly disappear. No, it's not going to happen. We have to be focused so much on the positive that we don't have time for negativities. Our mind space should not be wasted. Our mind, our our body that God has given us is so precious. With this we can achieve anything we want. The Haridasa Sahitya says so much. Sadhana Sharira Vidu Nidayadi Kottaddu Sadharanavalla Sadhupriyane it is. This Sharira is Sadhana Sharira. I can achieve so much with this. And what am I doing? I'm abusing this body. I'm abusing this world around me and saying, oh, this is Kali Yuga. Everything is going. See, nobody is doing. Nobody is doing the puja. So I should also not do. On Saturday night, today is Saturday night, right? There are many people who choose to do a lot of other things. But only the right people will say, let me do something purposeful. Let me do something which is right. That is, those are the people whom the God will accept because they made a conscious decision. They had to sacrifice other things. For all of you to be in this session, hundreds of you are on this session, right? To accept that and say that you had a choice of other things, right? In the airlines, they announce that we know that you had a choice of many other airlines, but you have chosen us. So you have chosen the spiritual path. And I'm sure you're doing lots of other things other than, attending just these lectures. And I'm very, very happy to see all of you here and the continuous interaction that all of you have with us. And it just motivates us to do even more. So we have to stay away from that negativity. Just saying that, let me not think about negativity. No, our mind unfortunately doesn't work like that. We have seen it in other earlier session. Our brain, and this we covered in the last session also, if you remember. Yama says, look, there are people who will move naturally towards positivity. There are people who will naturally move towards negativity. Why? It is in their Swarupa, Vikram sir. It is in their, it is in their Swarupa. Why? Because they're looking at the same things. Why should the reaction be any different? It is because of the Swarupa and Karma. That is what makes them that way. Next thing, Yama goes on to explain that God eats finally after everything is done, after the Pralaya Kala, Mahapralaya is done, God eats Chaturmukha Brahma as the main course and Lord Shiva as a side dish. Vyanjana, they say. So he destroys the very people, the very gods that he created. That's why in Dvadasha Stotra, Srimad Madhwacharya uses the word Avyakrita Grihastaya, Rama Pranayine Namaha. Avyakrita Grihastaya. He says, what kind of a Grihastha? What kind of a father is he? He is the one who created it. A father can never kill his child, but God can. And he does destroy the people whom he has created because he runs the cycle of life and death. So everybody's life has to come to an end, even at Chaturmukha Brahma at that stage. Okay. Because of this huge nature of his, he is impossible. It is impossible for us to understand him entirely. Samyak Gnana about God is not possible. Lot of knowledge is possible. But we can't say, I've read all the Vedas, I've read all the Upanishads, I've read all the Itihasa Purana, I've understood it. Yet, understanding God is beyond this. Who has understood infinity? Right? Nobody has understood infinity. Man has taken a satellite and has taken a rocket and gone on to different parts of the space. But has somebody said, look, I went on flying and I found that the space that we were in has ended here. It is not possible. The space cannot end. Similarly, God has no end. So such a person cannot be understood even with the Vedas. The Vedas are our best bet, as they say. Right? So, and finally, he resides in Vayu. He resides in a special form of Vayu. That is why we pray to God as Bharati Ramana Mukhya Pranantargata. We pray to him for this reason. There are many other reasons as well. We will look at it in the other Upanishads also. But those of you who are wondering why do we say this, it is because of this. Because to pray to that form of God is our safe bet. Why? Lord Vayu is a person who will will purify us and our knowledge and take us to God. And finally say, look, this person is emam mochaya. That means, he is eligible for moksha, and he may be, I have tested him, and he may be accepted. And then God bestows that. So it is through this that the Upanishads advise us that we have to pray to God. Right? So we have another 4 minutes, but I'll take a pause here. Of course, I wanted to cover much more, but no worries. We had planned to do 3 sessions. We will do the next and the last session subsequently. I will come to the questions um, like this. I'll skip this because all this I was supposed to cover. But about Ataha, I think all of you are familiar. You can join. We have a WhatsApp group which will give you information about these sessions and other forms of content that we have been releasing. So let me go full screen so that if you want, you can, you can uh, scan. Then we have a very active Instagram channel. We've got more than 350 posts. So you can go there. It will give you a lot of information that you need for your sadhana. We have a YouTube channel, which many of you who will be watching this later will also be watching. So please do come and watch this. You can watch all the previous recordings. We have more than 200 videos that we have made. Any questions that you have, please send it through this email, and we will answer these questions as well. We have started the Ataha Thoughtcast series, where we've been featuring podcasts with great individuals, professionals who are in different fields and professions like all of you, but are deeply interested and committed to the topic of spirituality, and there are a lot of questions. So we did that with dentists, we have done that with doctors, we have done that with people who are the creative director. Then we have someone, Rakesh Mishra ji, who is an IITian and a very deep thinker on the topic of spirituality. We spoke to a psychologist, Dr. Sulata Shenoy. We spoke to a software engineer, Jagannath. We had a music session where we analyzed the Haridasa Sahitya and the great lessons that it sort of gives us. Sri Hari Ambekar sang some wonderful songs. If you haven't heard it, please go there, and it will give you a reference about how Haridasa Sahitya, which is in musical form, also has very deep lessons in spirituality. And then, of course, we have we had a discussion with a leadership coach who spoke a lot about the topic of loneliness and how spirituality can be understood with that. So the next session that we're going to do is on the 9th of August, Saturday, and it is going to be the third and the concluding part of the Nachiketa Upakhyana or the Kathopanishad. So I'll address this question: is it possible to become a better soul by doing sadhana and through pure devotion to God? Can the swarupa of a negative soul be changed this way? No. The basic nature of a soul, Satya ji, cannot be changed. Right? It is not something which changes. However, what happens is the different karmas which have sort of enshrouded the soul with good karma that can be removed, because it came through bad karma with good karma that can go. Right? And I will also address another question, which this is a very common question that we get, which is that, see, there are some people who say, no, I'm so worried about what kind of a soul I am, because we can't make out what soul I am. I'm very worried. So, am I, what if I am a bad soul? What if I am doing something wrong? How will I know what kind of a soul am I? How much sadhana have I done? How much sadhana should I do? Etc. Simple answer to this is, a person who's thinking so much about whether he's a good soul or a bad soul cannot be a bad soul. Correct? Because our behavior is driven by the nature of our soul, the swarupa of our soul. A bad soul will never go in that direction. Isn't it? Right? So if you are constantly getting questions Satyaji, like you were asking, how do I become a better soul? What sadhana should I do, etc. That means that itself is showing that the soul of that person, whomever you are describing, and I'm assuming it is in some sense connected to you, is very clearly that you are moving in the positive direction. Otherwise, your mind will not gravitate towards this. And I've given this example many times. Arjuna and Duryodhana both went to Krishna seeking his help for the war. But what happened after that? Right? We know the answer. So, therefore, is it possible to become a better soul? No. But you can definitely become a better individual by doing the sadhana and the pure devotion to God. A sattvika soul can never do anything wrong. Even if he wants to, his mind will start moving, gravitating. Why? It is inherent to him. He cannot remain away from that. It is not in his nature to do wrong things. Right? It is simply impossible. Similarly, a negative soul or a tamasic soul cannot do positive things. Even if everything is there right in that, the soul will take him towards doing the wrong things. So, without it is not possible for us to know what kind of a soul we are till we achieve that approksha jnana. So, till such time, we all have to work towards what is in our hands, which is to do the sadhana in the ways that the Vedas and Upanishads have prescribed to us, which is what we now are prescribed in the different Puranas, and the Granthas are available as to what we have to do, and we have discussed that in our other sessions as well. Only that is in our hands. Knowing the nature of our soul, currently, when we don't have that approksha jnana, is not possible. Right? Okay, I live in Nagpur, sir, so I don't have any Madhva matas in the vicinity of my home and the city itself. It's difficult to get guidance to be in the company of the Astikas. So I see in today's world, Sir Sujalji, it is not that important to be physically close to a matha. Earlier, it was very important because you will not have access to those resources. So at Ataha, we are committed that we will try and provide whatever resources you want. So you can go to our YouTube channel, look at our videos. We have covered a lot of topics like this. Now, over and above this, you want personalized advice, we are there to help you. So please do reach out to us and we will help you. We'll set up a time and we'll give you all the guidance. Some of you have been requesting for books. We have been shipping those books as well. So if you want recommendations on books, how to study, any resource you want, we are there to help you. So, Sujalji, don't feel that you don't have anybody in the vicinity of your home. You have two people who are your best friends, Srimad Narayana and Sri Madhwacharya. They're there with us. We don't have to be worried about anything. They will somehow make it possible. So, please do reach out to us. Do not hesitate. We'll somehow make it happen that you get access to any and every resource that you want. Um, Similarly, by when all the sir, I am very very sorry to Mr. Keshava, sir. By when will we get the compilation? So the compilation is by Satya Pramoda Tirtharu. We are just getting that tomorrow. Everything would be ready. So please do write to us in that email that we have just shown you. Okay, and we will send it to you. In case you have missed it, here is the email ID. Please write to us and we will send it to you. We're very sorry for the delay. It took a little longer than we are going to do this. Why does God create and destroy? So God creates and destroy as per the karma of the jiva. The soul is something that is entitled to be born at a certain time because of the karma and entitled to get destroyed at a certain period of time. He does he samaha. He will do what is the readout that is coming from that understanding. So, for example, a doctor, he comes and he sees a report and it says that look, this person who is operated upon, he just performed the surgery. Similarly is God. He will act based on the jiva swarupa that he can see. God can see our swarupa. So that is why he creates and he destroys. For him, it is just a natural cycle. He does not lose or he does not gain anything from this activity. He's totally indifferent. He's just letting it happen the way it has been programmed. Can he intervene? He can. Does he intervene? He says no. Let Sometimes we say, let law take its own course. He says, let law take its own course. That is how he creates and he destroys. Okay. So great. I think we've come to the end of the session. If there are any other follow-up questions, please do write to us. We will be releasing other videos on the occasion of Sri Raghavendra Swami Aradhana, which is coming in the next week. Not the week now, but week after that. There are many Instagram reels that we have made on Varamahalakshmi, which falls on next Friday, as all of you would know. If you have a question, if you have anything that you will want to know about that, there are many reels, many resources that we have shared, including why do we call it Varamahalakshmi? Is it Varamahalakshmi or Vara and Mahalakshmi? I think I've given the answer there. Then Mahalakshmi, why do we call Lakshmi as Mahalakshmi? Why don't we call her just Lakshmi? And what is the meaning of the word Lakshmi? All these have been covered in the different reels. So please do follow it. You'll get a lot of resources, stotras, methods of praying Goddess Lakshmi Narayana in that format, right? So, and please do reach out to us at any time if you have any challenges. So thank you again. A very well attended session. Hundreds of you have come in. It's very exciting for us. And so next session we will do it on Kathopanishad part 3, and then we will go to Ishavasya Upanishad, and then we'll move to other topics based on the survey that we do and the feedback that we get. So since I'm a working professional, we go out, eat outside food with customer, do along with traditional dress, with issues. These are part of sin. See, there are certain things called apad dharma. That means we have to do it because of a certain vocation. We should avoid it as much as possible, because as you have rightly said, they act as subtractions or negatives in our sadhana. They come in the way of our sadhana, right? So it is not advised to do that. But some things, when things go beyond a point, we might have to do it with a repentance that we should not try and repeat it after that. So I think I've answered your question that yes, there are a part of our life. So certain things we have to correct it as we go along. And the faster we do it, the faster will be our spiritual progress. Krishnashtami is on the 16th of August as well. Yes, so there are reels available on Krishnashtami. Why Krishna? Why Ashtami? Why Rohini Nakshatra? What is the stotra that has to be recited? Garbhastuti. We have shared all this in the reels as well. So you can definitely read that, sir. I think it's a great point. Krishnashtami is one of the... No, sorry. I will correct it. Krishnashtami is the most important day in the Vaishnava calendar. So Srimad Madhwacharya has very clearly stated this in his grantha called Nirnaya, where he has talked about the profoundness of Krishnashtami. So we have made reels on that. You can definitely read it. If you have any other follow-up questions, please do let us know. Right? Thank you so much. Have a very nice rest of the weekend, and we look forward to having you in the subsequent sessions, where we'll get into even more depths on the sadhana that Nachiketa is advised to perform by Yama himself. So we close this. Sarvendriya Prerakena Shri Pranapati Neritaha Yadavochamaham Dena Priyatam Kamalalaya. Thank you so much.